So, very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of homeopathic philosophy. We were discussing Kant's philosophy, the chapter number 29, that is the idiosyncrasy. And this idiosyncrasy, Kant has explained from his point of view that these are the specific corporeal constitutions which react to one or two ingredients in a exaggerated way to which the rest of the peoples react in a normal way. And these are the constitutions which where you can find it out the exaggerated reactions in many planes. Their mind is active, they are quite alert, they are quick to act. And these personalities, whenever proves any drug substance, they proves details about it. And that's why these are the good provers from homeopathic point of view. But as a patient, if they comes to you, then you have to be cautious because they prove every remedy, whatever is given to them. And that's why in such types of patient, you have to go for higher dilutions and in a very less repetition or either no repetition of the remedy. And that's the caution you have to consider while treating the idiosyncratic individuals. So certain aspects about it he has tried to explain with his own way in order to explain how these idiosyncratic individuals reacts in your clinic. Certain aspects of them we have covered. Last remaining short part which yet we have not discussed, that today we're going to finish and tomorrow we'll start with new chapter. So what he says further, here is another difference. That is in my book, it is page number 22, 28, the second paragraph. I don't know in your book because my book is very old. Here is another difference. Substances that are inert and substances that we can use as food on nutritive plane may become poisonous upon dynamic plane to those that are susceptible. So those who are idiosyncratic, for them certain ingredients which looks to be inert or which looks to be having a minor action used to produce a severe reaction in idiosyncratic individual. So that there is no substance that may not be a poison in higher and highest potency. This gives us the distinction between crude and dynamic poisons that you will do well to think about it. So you cannot claim this is normal and this is poison. It depends upon individual. For one person, it might be a normal, or another person, it might be a poisonous. And that's why there is one sentence, 1 month's meat is good for the health for the one person and is a poison for another. And this is, here you have to explain the idiosyncrasy, here you have to explain regarding the susceptibility. Because this is the question which is asked generally in the exams for 10 marks or 20 marks. And you have to explain this concept only. And that's what Kent has said over there. Now, from all this, we are led to see that if there were no state of susceptibility, no such conditions as idiosyncrasy, there could be no homeopathy. If there were no susceptibility, there would be no sickness and no need of homeopathy. But it cannot happen that there is no susceptibility. As susceptibility is there, we are there. As susceptibility is there, the living things are there. That is the only criteria which differentiates living from non-living things. And that's why Kent has rightly said, if there would have not been susceptibility, there was no question of the disease, there was no question of homeopathy, and there was no question, in fact, of the human being also. Susceptibility underlies all contagion and all cure. So that cause and cure, the cause of sickness and cure of sickness, knock at the same door. They flow in the same way because the immaterial or simple substance, all disease is primitive substance and first substance. All cure of disease must be in a simple substance. In olden times, we used to think that all substances capable of extinguishing the vital force or which overcame the vital force were poisons. Then in itself is a crude idea of a poison. Any substance capable of impressing upon itself upon the economy of man sufficiently to cause death or to create disorder in the economy may be called as a poison. So he has defined poison very clearly over there. Any substance which used to cause a disorder in the human being or cause a death, that means which affects the human vital force or simple substance, then it is called as a poison. So it depends upon two factors. What may be that substance, and second, how is the person? If person is idiosyncratic, even very small amount of it affects him as a poison. For another person, it might be a normal. Nothing can happen. And that's why both the things we have to take into consideration when we think about the poison. And then he says that definition will apply to both dynamic and crude poisons. Poison presents two problems, an external problem and an internal problem. External deals with the question of quantity. The internal deals with the question of quality. So it depends upon what material is the poison. And if you are considering material, then it becomes nothing but the quantity. But if it relates with the human vital force, if it relates with the simple substance, then question of quantity never comes. Then there is a question of quality. A dynamics cannot be considered from the standard point of weights and measures, but from quality. Crude substances are considered from the standpoint of quantity, from weights and measure. So you can measure a poison. Yes, this much quantity of thing has happened over there. This is a poison which you can measure materially. So if patient has consumed organophosphorus, you find it out how much quantity he has consumed out of the bottle, out of 100 ml, whether he has consumed 50 ml. Because that is measurable. That is the external poison. But there are certain things which affect the human life. Poison which is in dynamic form. The poison which affects the human mind in such a way, specifically at the emotional level, you cannot measure how much damage it has done and how much quantity of poison was there. This is called as a dynamic poison. So both things which you have to take into consideration when you deal with the cases, because both affect the human cells ultimately. Whether it is a material poison or whether it is a dynamic poison, both of them have a capacity to alter the human state of health and alter the human vital force, ultimately expressing it in the form of disorder. This is only beginning to set you thinking. The subject leads into a study of protection as well. There are two forms of protection of the sickness, from the sickness. Man is protected from the sickness in two ways, by homeopathy and by use. The physician and nurse who go into the district of yellow fever or typhoid or diphtheria or smallpox, who keep busy, who have in highest sense of word and true love of use, who have gone into the work as mediums of mercy, will largely be protected just simply as their love of work form their delight in it. They have no fear. Fear is the overwhelming cause of the sickness, and those who fall prey to fear are likely to become sick. But those who face disease with no fear are likely to remain well. They do sometimes fall sick, it is true, but I believe it is because they begin to have fear in the world. Very, very clear understanding about the internal poison he has mentioned over there. Many times we have seen this example in COVID. Many people have died because of COVID-19. Why they have died? They are not died because of the material quantity of the COVID virus. They are died because the fear have been developed in such a strong way that affected their health, and that is an internal poison. There are people who worked together for the for the COVID epidemic, and they never suffered from the COVID. Why? Because there was a love to work, there was a love to work for others. That thing, if dominates, and if there is no fear, nothing happens. We have seen that there are many people, social workers, or many big peoples like Lokman Tilak or Mahatma Gandhi, or all those people, they have worked very in a in the population when plague was there, and they never suffered from the plague, where the people suffering in a family, there many members of the families gets affected because of plague. But these people who worked for the plague persons but never suffered from the plague, the exact reason which he has mentioned over there, that there was no question of fear in their mind. There was only love for others. There was only love to work. There was only love to help the others. And because of which they never suffered from such a disorder. So here he clearly mentions there are two types of poisons. One poison is material, which affects your body. Another poison, which lies inside you in the form of a fear, in the form of anxiety, in the form of jealousy, in the form of any emotional setback or excitement, and those affect the human being. And that's why we have to understand all those things when we learn the homeopathy. Then it is possible to know exactly how to treat these peoples. And to conclude the chapter, what he says, the other and greater prophylactics is the homeopathic remedy. After working in an epidemic for a few weeks, you will find perhaps that half a dozen remedies are daily indicated, and one of these in larger number of cases than any other. This one remedy seems to be best suited to the general nature of the sickness. Now you will find that for prophylaxis, there is a required less degree of similitude that is necessary for curing. A remedy will not have to be similar to prevent disease as to cure it. And these remedies in daily use will enable you to prevent large number of people from becoming sick. We must look to homeopathy for one of the protection as well as for our cure. And to conclude the chapter, he explains the concept of genus epidemicus. But in fact, Hahnemann has very clearly mentioned about the prophylactic remedy as a genus epidemicus. This remedy, after examining hundreds of patients, when you come to the same totality, and if you find it out, the totality of that epidemic, which is common to all, and then we choose a remedy, that remedy is not the remedy of that specific individual, but that remedy you can use as a preventive remedy for those who have not yet suffered from the epidemic. This remedy is not the curative remedy, but this remedy is the prophylactic remedy or preventive remedy, and should be given to the healthy individuals in order to not to get suffered from the same disorders of that epidemic. So here he tried to explain many things related with idiosyncrasies and susceptibility of the human being, the Kant's own way of understanding it. So that's all regarding the chapter idiosyncrasy. Next chapter, that is the individualization, we will going to start in next session, where he again explains many things regarding the individualization and its role in homeopathic practice. So that's all for today. And today evening, we're going to learn one important remedy, terebinthana, from the Alinsky notes at 8:15 p.m., which will be again a very useful remedy in our practice, specifically whenever the renal problems are very marked. So we're going to learn the terebinth in today's evening session. Thank you being there.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.